Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the last Risk and Assurance Committee meeting for the year. Let's begin with any apologies. I think we have a full complement, which is great. Any late items, Kaya? Don't think so. Grant?
No, it'll just be a,
Great, thank you. Any conflicts of interest to declare? Good, thank you. Let's turn now to the minutes of the meeting held on the 24th of October. They've been circulated. Does anyone have any questions, comments, or edits in relation to the letter? Okay, well, I'll move that.
sorry, Mr. Chair.
Sure.
There was just a couple of minor typos. Under the attendance register, I'm still showing as the deputy mayor. And actually it's got Deputy Mayor Anna Williams. I don't think Anna was at that meeting. It was, probably should read me. Yes, and in the very first page of the open minutes, which is on page 4 of the agenda, I'm showing as Deputy Mayor again there. Just wanted to correct the record.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And I also notice that Kit is listed on the first page of those open minutes as well. Kai, if you can fix that. I think this is probably just to change the template. Thank you, Kit. Appreciate it. Okay, I'll move that the minutes be taken as read and confirmed as a true and correct record of the meeting. Seconded by Councillor Kathy. Thank you. That's been approved. Let's turn now to the decision reports. And the first is from Tansha in relation to health, safety and well-being. That's a quarterly report, which is item 38. That's okay. Is anyone a member of the senior leadership team familiar with the report? That's okay. No, it's absolutely no problem. It's only a short report. Does anyone have any questions? I've just got a couple.
Yeah,
Stitch in there, thanks.
Just a couple of draw questions. The review of the template agreements, I presume there was an issue with them. Was there just some confusion about the requirements within for the pre-qualifications? You know, it's
yeah.
No problem at all. Good morning, Tansha. Your chief executive was doing a stunning job standing in.
I was about to tell some lies about it. So Councillor Hughes just asked a question about 2.5. You might need to repeat it.
Oh, sorry. So the review of the template agreements that were
right.
for the pre-qualifications. So
It's just the wording. It kind of indicated that once they received the tender, there was no need for them to continue the scheme. So we've
that's fine. I just
changed to that now.
4.2, the hearing loss for 3 of the 6 staff.
Yes.
There's an refer to appendix 2.
Yeah, sorry. I just spoke to Kai about it this morning. That was missed out on the report. I'm happy to send it to you.
Okay.
2 of the staff members are in a higher age bracket, and there's a younger staff member. They had just recovered from a cold as well too, so that could go, then also indicated that reflected the hearing loss at that time as well too.
That's right. So that was sort of based on. So these were the initial baseline readings. So they've had readings previously for hearing loss, or
not this person.
Okay.
Yeah. Because if you might just read in my report that we don't, in the past, well, we haven't had compulsory pre-employment testing. And this kind of highlights the need for us to actually do it every time we employ someone.
That's cool.
So just on, if I could just interrupt, councillor, just because you've raised a point that I was going to raise, touch, which is at 2.3, you talk about the importance of pre-employment health assessments.
Yes, that's right.
I wasn't sure from the paper, sorry to jump in,
No,
but
no,
I think it's germane to the answer Touch has just given you. Do you carry out pre-employment health assessments now?
We started,
You've started?
yes.
Okay.
The only thing we don't do is the drug and alcohol testing,
So, and that's with every new council employee.
operational employee.
Those in the
Around
operational roles.
Operational.
Yeah.
Okay. And so, Tancha, how does that work? Presumably there's no one medically qualified on staff. So when you receive a pre-employment health assessment, what do you do with that?
Well, we retest them every year to make sure, for example, if they come back with clean bill of health, then we test them the following year and there's issues, for example, noise, hearing, loss, then we look at what's happened and we speak to the health providers as well to ensure.
So we're presumably storing sensitive personal health information.
Yes.
Are we satisfied that we've got sufficiently good quality security for our storage?
We only get, now we only kind of just get a summary. In the past, they have given us each individual's report, but because of privacy reasons, we don't get each individual report, we just get a summary.
Okay,
And yes, our system is secure.
great.
Our HR system is
Because you
secure.
know where I'm
We
going.
don't
here.
have an HRIS system. We've put that in the long-term plan because we've got two different systems that don't talk to each other in terms of employee information and payroll.
Mm.
So we dearly love the two to be able to connect because there's risk in having two different systems running when it comes to remuneration. But in terms of staff records, yes, we've got them secure in our document management system.
Right, because obviously there's been lots of examples of breaches of privacy by official agencies where particularly sensitive information is being disclosed. So it's the question, I think where you're heading to makes perfect sense to me. So long as we've got the security in place to ensure that the sensitive personal information is adequately protected. So thank you. Sorry.
Yeah, just on the appendix, and apologies to Touch. I made the call to take the appendix off the agenda because of that reason. Even though it didn't have particular names, it was referring, was a report on staff, and it wouldn't have been hard to actually work out who they
That's
were.
right, that's right.
And so I didn't realise it still referred to that appendix in the report. So just for privacy reasons, I made the call to take that out.
I think it's, thank you for the explanation. I think that's a fair call. All I'd suggest is that in future we go back and just check the cross references. So thank you. Councillor Hughes, I apologise.
Right, I'll just finally, it's just a bit of a comment on the KPIs, Touch. So, I've sort of got a little bit of an issue with targets.
Yep.
Not so much for the, meetings and things like those are easy to set targets for. Along the lines of near miss events. I mean, a near miss event sort of is by its nature, it's like an unplanned event that's has caused an injury thing. So you be able to target unplanned events is probably a little more difficult. I was just wondering whether something along the lines of more of a good catch system would be a lot better than targeting near misses, due to the fact that good catches are sort of more for identifying hazards or process improvements rather than, so and it's probably a bit easier to set targets for those than it is for like near misses. So just wondering perhaps at your next monthly health and safety meeting, perhaps you can discuss that amongst your peers as to whether that would be a better system.
Okay, so just with the near miss events, it's pretty much like, you know, like every day we do stuff, and sometimes we may have a trip or a pool. But so that's kind of like we need to capture those events, especially when people, like, for example, a case of example is that we had staff coming out of the staff room and we had congestion point there, and there's a number of near misses.
Yeah.
So we, as a result, we put the mirror up, but there's also operational near misses as well too. Like if operational staff aren't reporting any near misses, then something's not right.
Yeah.
So it's up to myself or the managers to go and say, hey, look, no near misses, what's going on? You know, what's not going on?
As I say, by its nature, near misses are unplanned, so there's a good chance that there may not anything happen for that. But sort of like what you just described about the hallway there is that sort of, they would come under a good catch type sort of thing where improvements can be made like you've done, which is probably a good system to have. Then you're not because the danger you can fall into if you set targets for things like unplanned events is that if you've got a target of 2, 3, 4, whatever it is, end of the month you haven't hit that target, then some personnel sort of would almost try and make something up to hit the target, if you know what I mean. Whereas good catches are a different thing altogether, because you're not actually trying to measure an unplanned event. You're just picking up on things that are happening, and only little things, and you know, but they can all add up. If you know what I mean, has a lot of identification,
Suppose it's a
especially.
rewording to read
Yeah,
as well
to
too, you know,
a
like-
certain degree,
yeah,
it is. Yeah,
yeah,
so
okay.
you sort of.
Councillor, I wonder, because it sounds like you've got some good experience here, I wonder if you've got some wording suitably anonymised, you might be able to pass it on to Tansha so that could be the basis of a conversation in the future.
Yeah, no, I've got quite a bit of information on this sort of stuff, so
Yeah.
I can
That's okay.
supply you with it, and I'll have a rummage through some stuff tonight and see what I can find.
Brilliant. Thank you very much.
But can I just speak through you? Yeah, sorry. These KPIs have been in place for a long time. As you all know, we've been missing a permanent P&C manager for a long time. So since March, right? So we're just kind of limping along here,
Yeah.
trying to just keep the ship on course. All right. So love your work and the suggestion about reframing this, actually, because I agree with you. It could create some kind of perverse incentives around reporting. So really happy to take some guidance and some help there. But we put these in place because these are things that weren't happening at all. And we knew there were near misses or, near misses going on out there that weren't. So the whole reporting, getting people into that habit of telling us was kind of what this was about. But probably there's an evolution here. And so, very happy to take that help and advice on
The
this.
trouble is a lot of personnel they think they're going to get in trouble if they're reporting stuff.
Exactly.
Or you've
And
got to
it's-
create that culture where you're not going to get in trouble if you report stuff, because we need reporting to improve the workplace. So that's
And I'm actually working with the Health and Safety Committee to revisit the space on a different angle as well too. So hopefully have something up by next year or early next year.
Okay, so just before we go to Councillor Jeffries for your points and questions, I just did want to emphasise that I think the committee absolutely understands and appreciates we're on a bit of a journey here, that we will continue to think about and iterate targets in the way we go about this exercise. I think that the committee members will all agree that we've made considerable strides in the last year or so, and we've got Tansha to thank for that. So I don't want anything that Councillor Hughes has suggested be in any way seen as criticism. I think it's actually really positive
Yeah.
that
Oh,
the
I
committee is
don't see it as
engaging
criticism at all,
and
no.
is looking to suggest other ways of framing up these targets. So well done. Thank you. But we'll keep talking as a group to see if we can get this really slick and tight. Councillor Jeffries.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Through you, just going back to 4.2, if I may, the annual test results, are they are they an indication of hearing loss that's occurred in council's employment? Or is that something that sort of, where I'm coming from there is, are there any implications to council? Or is this sort of thing covered by ACC or what, you know, if someone becomes deaf while they're working to us,
Yes.
yeah.
So if there's a rapid change, obviously it's something that we're doing.
Yes,
So when normally I get the report, I'll run it through with the manager and say, hey, look, we've got, let's make sure that they've got their, air protection on when they're working in a plant.
yes,
And then we look at the other areas like, for example, age, and age related, so not older age bracket. And like I say, the other ones are it's our first baseline report, so we're not 100% sure. But then that's when we go back and just make sure we've got our processes in place to make sure they're wearing their hearing protection and that they perhaps they need to get new protection as well too.
yeah, so that so what you're saying, there's no comeback on council for people losing their hearing while they're working for us,
Or if they should, well, I think it would be if they're not wearing.
if they're not wearing their.
They're not
Really,
provided, if
Yeah.
they're not
Provided
provided
on
with
the
their
tools.
PPE
Yep.
Yeah.
and we haven't followed up when we have heard or seen or witnessed or whatever, then I think there is, you know, like we've got to do, under the Act, we've got to do everything a reasonable person would do.
Yep.
We can't be at the plants every day. Sometimes I imagine the guys, it's a bit annoying. They left them in the truck. They haven't got them with them. I don't know what happens out there. The other thing is we haven't got, some of these employees have been with us a while. We haven't got that baseline data from day one, when they started,
Sure.
you know, and of course we can't control what they do in their personal lives.
Exactly. I think the point that
So
Tanch is
yeah,
making,
so we're trying to
is-
do everything
yeah.
we can reasonably.
I think the point
Yeah.
that Tanch is making, which is absolutely the correct point, is we're trying to ensure that correlation does not become causation.
Yes.
So this information is correlated to employment, but it's not necessarily caused by the employment. And we're trying to make darn sure that that there is no causation between the employment and injury.
Okay, no, thank you. The other, I just wanted to say thank you to clause 4.5. It's great to see now that the tender documents are now in line with our procurement policies, and that they all have to be SHE pre-qualified. So so well done on that one. It's good to see that it's in place. Thank you.
All right. Councillor Prentice.
I just wanted to comment actually too on 4.2. If you're doing the pre-employment checks, you're going to be a lot more engagement because
Sorry.
if you're doing the pre-employment checks, you're going to get a lot more engagement from your employees, because if there's a baseline, something that's a little bit low or a little bit, wrong, for example, then they are going to be a lot more open to wearing the PPE that you're providing and using it.
Yes, they wouldn't need to wear the PPE, definitely.
Yeah. Oh, look, we're in an employment situation too, and it's hard to
I
get them
think
engaged.
as long as we highlight the importance of why
Yes.
you have to
Yes.
wear PPE.
Yes.
Most of it's common sense, and staff will know that they're going to a noisy, plant that they're not wearing anything after a period of time, there will be ramifications for that.
And
So, like Tanya said, we provide them the tools, give them the guidance, and do the testing to make sure that they actually following procedures as well.
Okay, anything else? All right, well, I'll move that the report be received. That's seconded by His Worship. That's been approved. Tancha, thank you. Thank you for your efforts through the year, and best wishes to you and your family for the holidays. Okay. Mark, welcome. Item 39, folks, the capital projects report for the month ending 30 November.
Morning, everyone.
So, Mark, I wonder whether we might just take this in sections. in terms of the first section, which is the affordable waters reform, I assume you know about as much as the rest of us, which is nothing.
I think there is one correction I need to make in there, Mr. Chairman, and that is section 4.4.
Yep.
Or paragraph 4.4. So we were originally working on the basis of a 1 year water activity for the long-term plan. Recently we've realised that we actually have to include 2 years in the long-term plan, and it's come about from probably the blurring of the fact that our transition was scheduled to be 2025, but the legislation is actually 2026 until that's an order of the council. So we're just having to add an extra year into the long-term plan, which my report sort of details only 1 year. Thankfully, we've got a lot of that stuff already together, so it's not a big process to fix that up. But that is probably an impact on long-term plans, 1 extra year of water included.
And presumably, therefore, the consultation document will lay out the options and the implications for council continuing to hold on to the assets until 1 July 2026. Okay, great.
So that's probably the only correction there.
Just so that's any questions in relation to the affordable water reform section. So I'm now going to turn to the land transport roading section. Anything you wanted to add there, Mark, before we get into questions on that particular section?
Just, I came back in this report with some further information on the valuation report around the bridge condition data. And I think, referring back to the minutes, I said that we were doing annual inspections on our bridges. It turns out that we're doing biannual inspections, but because of the number of bridges, we do half 1 year, half the next year. So it feels like we're actually doing it annually. But we also do a 6-year full structural inspection of it. So I think from a condition assessment point of view, they're being inspected at a high regularity. But the question was around the confidence in our data, which is, and I can talk to that now unless you want to come back to that, but as the report sort of details, it was the C grade was around the data, our confidence in our data.
Is that because of what I take from 4.9, Mark, is that it's because of the need for manual transferring?
Yeah, so the data from the bridge inspections is collected at one platform, and then it has to be manually loaded to another platform. I've even brought our asset manager along here to explain that in more detail, should there be some further questioning around that. So what we're currently doing now is trying to get those two platforms to talk to each other so that the data can transfer automatically, which will then reflect in a better grading on that C grade, because that's around the I suppose the confidence in our data. With the data sitting in another platform, the data that sits in the RAM platform is obviously of less quality, so that's an issue that's been highlighted, and the manual transfer is quite arduous, so probably doesn't happen.
And fraught with danger. So, Mark, the obvious question is, in terms of your work program, what's the timing for completing that two systems talking to each other project?
I probably don't know that exactly. I don't know if Emma, do you have any timing? If you don't mind, we're referring to Emma Good, our manager.
Hi, Emma.
Hi. No, I don't have a definite timeline on when that will be fixed, but I have scheduled to start working on it with Journo Viewer in the new year.
So, forgive me, was this an issue raised by the auditors?
Yeah, it was in the valuation report.
The PEC evaluation?
Yes.
And so, is it something that the auditors are going to look at next year?
But correct me if I'm wrong, I don't think it was an issue raised by the auditors, but more so an issue raised by the Risk and Assurance Committee as to why we had a C grade sitting at our table as opposed to lots of A's and B's.
Right. It was a reference to uncertainty, wasn't it? Is that right?
So
Yeah.
why did we have this anomaly in there?
So the reason I'm asking these questions about the auditors is that if there's something the auditors would be wanting to be interested in, that would influence the timing of getting this process finished. But if it's not an audit related issue, okay, all right. Maybe, Mark, you or Emma could give us an update in the second meeting for 2024 about how that process is coming along. So that'll be about, would that be Q2? June. Sound like a good time to you, Emma? Cool. Excellent.
I would hope it would be done by June.
We probably just ensured that it has, Mark.
Excellent.
Okay, thank you. Do any colleagues have any questions in relation to the land transport roading section? Okay, let's move to your travails, Mark, in the employment scope in Three Waters. So you're currently doing 4 jobs by the looks of things.
Only, yeah, it feels like that some days. 2 officially, but yes, the recent resignation of our network engineer is going to put us under a bit of pressure. We've still got coverage in the water operator space, but we've had to extend a short-term contract with one operator while another operator is still off injured. So the difficulty for us now is to cover that technical aspect of the role into the new year. And I have scheduled a meeting tomorrow actually to look at some consultants that will come in to cover us during this recruiting process. The difficulty is we're going to go out to recruit specialised staff, which is not going to be simple.
At a very uncertain time from water engineering's perspective.
So we've got a measure in place. I hope to have a positive meeting tomorrow, which will give us some sort of assurance that we've got something in place when our engineer leaves in January, early January. So, yeah. But currently, 3 roles we'll be looking to recruit.
Thank you. Any questions from colleagues in relation to the Three Waters section before we turn to surely the highlight of this report? The water supply section. Mark, I had the benefit of a really good discussion with you this morning. Having had a chance to reflect on that section, is there anything you'd like to tell the committee?
So I think, but I mean, the directive's been given. I think the key for us here is this is not something new to us. We've been challenged with this problem for several years. And we've been doing a lot of work since 2020 when the stimulus fund came out. We tried to get an acceptable solution working for the Ōtorohanga scheme. But although it looks simplistic, it's quite a difficult process. We ended up basically it was unaffordable, not only just for the capex for a point of use system, but the operational costs to manage those point of use systems was cost prohibitive. So I suppose the catalyst for us now is that we've been given a directive to come up with a funding plan. We've got a lot of background data, a lot of supporting documents on just how difficult this is for us to achieve, especially in those Ōtorohanga schemes. So moving forward, I think the only option for us now is to collate all that background information and put it forward what a funding plan might look like. But with the reality is simply unaffordable for such small schemes, and then see what sort of falls out of that. I suppose I'm not taking that position. So think it's your microphone on, Mr. Chair. Sorry.
Thank you. So, an options paper with cost implications, a recommendation, which sounds at this stage like it might be, there's not much more we can do that would otherwise, because of the converse of that would be anything that we could do would be completely unaffordable. And so in those circumstances, we need to be clear about what it is that you'd be advising a water regulator and what the implications of that are. So if we target that for March. See if I'm comfortable with that.
Can I ask a question, please? Have we got budget for this put in the long-term plan budgets?
So I've put a budget in there. It's a bit of a stab, but yeah. But I suppose until I sit down and draw back on previous sort of estimates of what that looks like, we've always had 3 schemes in Ōtorohanga that were non-compliant. Turns out that one is now compliant because of the changes in the quality assurance rules, and that's to do with the population size. So there's a lot of, I suppose, work to do in that space to make sure that the schemes are correctly categorised, that they sit in with the correct population. Then review some of those sort of historical estimates we've had, which go back to 2017, 2020. Collate all that together, bring back a more of an up-to-date report of what that looked like. I suppose the one assurance is that I don't think it will be any cheaper than what it was when we first estimated it. But at this stage, I've put a budget in there, which is more probably a placeholder to make sure it's in the consultation document.
So one of the things I'd be interested in knowing is what are the implications of making the point to the water regulator that the costs far outweigh the benefits, and therefore we're not going to do it. I'd like to know what the implications of that are.
Yeah, I mean, that would probably be what falls out of the recommendation at the end, is we will put that forward. We'll bring it to the committee for resolution, and then so the letter that's been issued to us says that an enforcement order may be issued. What that extends to, I'm not sure at this point. What would it escalate to?
So unless colleagues are comfortable, sorry, Councillor Prendergast.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Chair. Yes, I just wanted to say firstly, thank you to Mark for the extensive patience that you have demonstrated regarding this particular problem, which has been very ongoing. I think one of the biggest necessities will be, once you have got your report together, to make sure that the community and particularly the water committee understands the changes that have happened, because I think there's a lot of misconception as to not what the options are so much, it's just how things have changed regarding private water take, because in my view, that is the biggest sticking point. Am I right?
Sorry.
That the ability to take private water off the scheme, and an alternative to that has changed. Am I right? The regulation used to be that those UV filters were not going to make water take compliant, but I thought you said to me recently that they are now.
The difficulty with the point of use exercise we went through is that you've still got to have an element of pre-treatment for the UVs to be successful. So whether it be a cartridge filter, and what we were looking at was 2 cartridge filters plus a UV, but you have to have some pre-treatment upstream, otherwise we'll be continually replacing cartridge filters or having UVs that. So if the UV senses that the water's outside the limitations, it shuts the water off. So this was the issue. One of the issues we faced was the OPEX cost to run 40 odd point of use systems would have been astronomical. We did throw some numbers around that. I can't remember exactly what they were, but of course they were all fail safe too. So as soon as the point of use run outside its parameters, it would shut the water off. So we would end up with all sorts of call outs, bypassing, so it was just completely unfeasible. On a smaller scheme with maybe 10 or 12 houses, what is successful. But when you get up to 40 odd properties, which we're working with one of our plants, and that's not just houses, that included cow shed, staff rooms, wool shed sort of staff rooms. So everywhere that someone could possibly drink water, you had to have these point of use devices, which were, I suppose, quite labour intensive in managing. So when we realised that was an unfeasible option, we went back to let's treat the water at the source. Of course, that was unsuccessful as well, because with these rural plants, they're very large water consumers. They're not small domestic supplies. So you're talking huge volumes of water, most of it going to livestock. So the actual plant has to cater for the entire volume, not just for what being drunk. So there's all sorts of these little difficulties to work through. So I think it's time to collate all those exercises we went through, bring it back, and formulate a plan to go back to Taumata Arawa with the realities we're facing. Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Through you, Chair. There's a possibility that I suppose future technologies will sort of mitigate this anyway to a certain degree. I know there's probably not around at the moment, but I think you bring this plan back, but really probably not much is going to change realistically, is it? Looking at perhaps other options outside the box. I mean, just hark back to our meeting with the police district commander the other day, and we've had a project on the go for those CCTV cameras, which was a $300,000 project, and then he shows up and gives us an alternative that's for free, basically. So you don't know what you don't know, if you know what I mean. So perhaps looking outside the box to find something else, technology or something that would be possibly cheaper is another option. Is that?
Well, my sense, councillor, is that the report may well suggest the best option is to do nothing beyond what you're currently doing, but to keep it constantly under review for the very reason that you've identified, which is as technologies change and evolve, there may well be a more affordable option for the community which can deal with this issue. But I remind you again that based on this report, the plants are currently under permanent boil water notices and are primarily 90% for stock use.
Yes, 90% based on that.
My best understanding is that stock don't like chlorinated water. So, okay, I think we've got a plan going forward. So, is everyone comfortable with that? I really appreciate, Mark, the thought that's gone in over the last couple of days since this report in terms of thinking about what the next steps might be. So we'll look forward to seeing your report in March. Thank you.
Yeah, just one question, if I may, Mr. Chairman. We're going through the LTP and the budgeting process at the moment, and I just wondered what's in the budget as it stands at the moment in respect of this particular issue. Are we including the proposed capital expenditure on those water treatment stations as part of that LTP process, or are you sort of being a bit more conservative about what's involved? Because if your options come back, and just for example, Mr. Chair, if the committee or the council decides to do nothing, then obviously that's going to affect your financial. So I just wondered at what stage we would. But to me, that just seems to be an important component of what we're talking about here. Yep.
So lucky we've got the group manager of finance. So basically we've put $1 million in there in the budget. Looking at it from if we were to do something, it'd be a two-phase approach. We'd have to do some early design, further design based on what we already know. So realistically, it's probably not enough. It's probably gets closer to 2, maybe 3. But we've got to have something. And the reason we chose that $1 million figure is because we had previously put 1 million in for the current LTP, which was to link, if you recall, we were looking at linking to try and deal with this issue. We were looking at retiring one plant and linking two together, but that became unfeasible when we realised the cost. So we've just carried that figure through, thinking it would be a nice easy number for now.
Okay.
Well, Mr. Chairman, I raised some issues in an email, which I think's been circulated fairly generally, and I'm pretty comfortable with where we're at and where we're heading with it now. So
Okay, I very much appreciate it. Thank you. Okay, let's turn now to the wastewater section. Does anyone have any questions on that? And then the financial status update. Just checking in with colleagues. I like this form of reporting. It's nice and simple. It's colourful. It's easy to read. Is everyone comfortable with this? Good. Thank you, Mark. Much appreciated. So, does anyone have any further questions on Mark's paper before I put the resolution? No? Okay. In that case, I'll move that the report be received. Seconded by Councillor Hughes. Thank you very much, Mark. Thanks for your efforts during the year and best wishes to you and your family for the holidays. Okay, so out of the frying pan into the fire, climate change. Ross, good morning. I'm surprised you weren't at COP28.
Having someone there, Mr. Chairman, might have been helpful for the nation, but
Do we not have someone there?
not one in a leadership role that I understood. There's probably some officials there.
Ross, thanks for the paper. Everyone's had an opportunity to read it. It basically sets out a schematic for a future action plan, as I see it. And the timing for that is a draft plan by March with engagement completed by the 30th of June of next year. Have I got that about right?
Yes, there are Mr. Chairman, there are three sort of elements to the proposed structure, two of which involve this council, I guess. Looking inwardly in terms of what we can do in the mitigation space, what we need to do in the response space as a asset manager and owner and service provider associated with that. And then there's the third dimension, which is working with our stakeholders, partners and community. So there will be, in a sense, some engagement required to complete the plan, but delivery of the plan clearly requires substantial ongoing work with and engagement with our communities in particular before we can land on what I believe will be a robust and required action plan.
So, Ross, we've got our next meeting on the 20th of March. Do you think that the draft plan will be ready for us to have a look at?
Given the council have directed the chief executive to, and by association me, to have a draft plan by the end of March, I see no reason why we can't meet that time frame for the committee. Certainly, that'll be the intention.
Because I would have thought that the council is not going to be a major greenhouse gas emitter. I wouldn't have thought there's much action in that.
There's certainly some opportunities around doing our bit as a good corporate citizen to mitigate what greenhouse gas emissions we are.
We don't have any baseline calculations.
Not as yet, so that is part of this.
Oh, we haven't
That's
done
the
it.
point.
Got it.
Yes.
Yeah, nothing.
So a key part of this is the understanding bit, and then the managing and responding comes after. I mean, there are certainly actions and initiatives we have underway around mitigation, a shift to a lower emission vehicle fleet, for instance, taking up opportunities to look at lower energy use in this building and opportunities to do more in that space.
The only other point I'd make is that the lines company would be a perfect organisation to align ourselves with, because I know that this is a reasonably important component of their future strategy.
Your timing is
Already
impeccable,
done.
Mr. Chairman. So we are meeting with one of the senior members of the Lions Company team tomorrow. So we are working together with other councils within the Lions Company area. And we'll be doing the same, albeit I guess to a lesser extent with Waipart Networks in terms of the northern part, the western part of our district.
Wonderful. Okay, that's great. You're well ahead of me. Does anyone have any questions for Ross in relation to the paper? Councillor Jeffries.
Yeah, thanks. Through you, Mr. Chairman. Ross, thanks for the report. It's makes for very, very interesting reading. Clause 4.2, I just wondered, in the very last paragraph there in italics, it talks about asking New Zealand government, blah, 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 but as local government or generally at some stage, are we going to be consulting with central government about costs associated with climate change? Like, for example, who will pay for managed retreat of properties from low-lying areas? Who'll cover the costs of providing alternative road access? And do they have funds available to assist us, councils, with resources, for example, staff and admin costs and those sorts of things? So is that going to be part of is there consultation planned or taking place around those sorts of issues?
So through Mr. Chair, Karen, the Chief Executive, I have some commentary to make here, but my take on it, Councillor, is that those conversations have been underway and will continue with the new coalition government. So I know that in the plan there is still a commitment focused on climate change response. I guess we're all going to wait to see what the detail looks like, given there are some elements of that from the previous government that are going to be changed. But I see no indication that I guess the momentum that was established sadly as a result of those significant weather events and their impacts 12 months ago are not being front and centre for this incoming government, and we've already seen in terms of some of the response and acknowledgement that investing in not only infrastructure but people in place to where we can shift people away from areas of risk where there is an obvious and I guess affordable and achievable response to keep them in place. So there has been resourcing brought to bear in that regard, but I sense we're only at the start of that journey because it's a major one for our country.
Yeah, it is, and I agree, and I think probably it's great that we're actually flagging all these sorts of issues in our planning documents, but without the funding to support them, one has to question as to whether it's ever going to happen unless we get that assistance from central government. So just wanted to, because we don't have the wherewithal to pay for this.
No, and I think one of the key aspects that this plan development process I think needs to highlight is what are those risks for our communities, and how might those risks be best managed, and what does adaptation look like in our context. So we're getting a clearer sense in other parts of the country what adaptation and response looks like. Some of that will apply in our district, but it's not a rinse and repeat or copy. And so we're on a journey, and this is really, I think, the start of the journey. working with our communities to understand what's important to them.
Thank you. Any other questions, comments, Ross? Okay, I'll put the resolution that will be received. Thanks, seconded by councillor Jeffries. Ross, thank you very much, and thanks again for all of the work that you've done this year, and best wishes to you and your family for the holidays.
Thanks, Chair.
Thank you. Okay, let's turn now to the outstanding management letter reports from 22-23 annual report. Good morning, Brendan.
Good
Thanks for
morning.
your paper. I just wanted to make sure that I'm clear about what we're looking at, Brendan. The says you're updating the committee on the actions, the status of actions that arose from the 22-23 annual report.
Yes.
Right. Then you, in 2.1, you talk about the 21 and 22 annual report audit, and there's no reference to the 22-23 audit.
Apologies, I put the wrong date there. It should be 22-23 at that point, sorry.
Right, so when you say 18 items were identified during the 21-22 annual report, you mean 22-23?
Yes.
Okay.
Apologies.
Okay.
I think what happened there is originally I was gonna have a report, a line about what was in the previous one versus what was in this one. I took that line out, but took the wrong line out. Changed the date.
So I guess the key question I've got, Brendan, is what's changed since the last report? I couldn't quite get a handle on what's changed. I see a lot of words, but I don't see what's actually changed.
Since the last report to the committee.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the last report to the committee was back in June. So that was obviously reporting on the management letter points are identified by Deloitte in the 21-22 annual report.
Right.
Because we've now finished the 22-23 annual report, the management data points change. Basically, they re-raise those that they've identified that are still issues, and then they've raised new issues.
Right.
So, so yes, the difference, I guess, is that we've cleared off some of the old points that were in the last letter, and they haven't been carried over. And there's some new things that have come up, for example, Kiwi House.
And these are the ones, Brendan and Graham, where they've made the point.
Yeah.
And you've agreed with it rather than push back.
This is everything out of the letter. So some of these were the ones that we did push back on, and you'll see that in some of my the comments that our responses to them, and then my further comments is that we actually think we've got sufficient controls around this, so we're not going to do anything further.
Okay.
So, but I guess just for completeness, I've put everything in their letter in here, regardless of whether it's not been pushed back on or not, just so you've got everything to report.
What you might want to think about, Brendan, just for a future report, because there's quite a lot to get through here.
Yeah.
When you're reading it, is where there's stuff where you think it's been done or it's been raised, but you've pushed back and said we're not going to do it,
Yep.
or we're not going to do it this year.
Mhm.
Maybe you just put a separate colour through
Okay.
that row,
Yep.
so that we can quickly see what's the stuff that we're actually going to nail this year.
Okay.
Because one of the things I'm really keen to do is to go into this audit with everything that we agree with.
Yeah.
Done.
Yep.
Are you fairly confident, Graham? we can do that?
Yeah, no, that's a good plan, and I think even the ones that we've pushed back on, we've pushed back, but we've pushed back in a way that says we can achieve this by doing this. It's not exactly that we're saying that we don't agree with what you're saying and we've ignored it, you know. So we've
You haven't said that at all.
no, we've proposed I guess alternatives, you know, to meet the MLP.
Yeah, I guess we've said, while we understand you've raised this issue, we think that our current processes are sufficient.
Right.
Because of these things.
Okay.
So we're not necessarily saying we're going to put some different things in place to what I've said. We've actually said, no, we think we've got stuff already.
Okay. All right. Do any colleagues have any questions for Brendan about his paper? I guess just to re-emphasize, I can't emphasize enough how keen I am to go into the audit process with all of these things having been addressed.
Yep.
Otherwise, we're constantly playing catch up and you're
Yep.
spending all of your time looking backwards when we really want you focused looking forwards.
Yep.
Great. Okay. So on that basis then, unless there are any other questions, I'll move that we receive Brendan's report. Thank you, Brendan. Does anyone else have any questions? So that's seconded by Councillor Jeffries, and that is, thank you. Thank you very much, Brendan. Do you have any other papers today?
Yep, the next one and the public facility both me as well.
Right, excellent. So let's turn to the next paper, which is item 42, the outstanding debtors quarterly report.
Brendan, was Teresa coming?
Yes, I should let it out. Come down, yep.
That's fine. Shall we ad lib while,
Oh, no, I'll present, she's just gonna come down, so.
absolutely
And
fine.
she might have some comments later.
So the only question I had for you, Brendan, in relation to this paper before I go to colleagues' questions is, you say that, just over 30% of rateable properties pay by direct debit.
Yep.
Which led me to wonder, is there benefit for the council in significantly increasing that percentage?
Potentially from a cash flow point of view. It depends what direct debit they go on to as well. So we offer weekly, fortnightly, monthly, and then on payment date, due date, full rates. So we only do 2 installments a year.
Yep.
So if everyone that was not currently on direct debits went on to just paying it on the due date by direct debit, that wouldn't really change our cash flow much. If everyone went on to weekly or fortnightly, that may have a significant impact on our cash flow. It doesn't create a whole heap of additional work or anything. If people go on different, we just run it every day, so it's not too much to just run the report, pull it all down. So it doesn't create any, I guess, no negatives if everyone going with direct debits, apart from the initial setup.
So the question that was going through my mind, Brendan, was if there were advantages, does it make any sense in trying to incentivize ratepayers to get to a significantly higher number of direct debits? Because if you are going to get a cash flow advantage, you can identify the value of that cash flow advantage.
Yep.
And you can spend a tiny little bit of that in incentivizing ratepayers to move to a DD. But I mean, that's an operational decision for you and Graham, but I just wondered whether we could enhance our own cash flow with a minor incentive.
So we do have some incentives. So every year we do a first of rates installment. There's a sort of an incentive that goes out with it that proposes or suggests people look at going onto direct debits. I think when Teresa's dealing with particularly people that are outstanding debts, she'll try and get direct debits if she can, because obviously there's a benefit. Another benefit of having direct debits is we know we control taking the money.
You know,
as opposed to
immediately
automatic payment.
bounces,
Yeah, so we've got that information. Yeah, I mean, we could do some work. You'll never get everyone on direct debits because some people are wary of giving us that power to take money out of accounts, obviously. So, you know, I don't know what the biggest council in the country still is at, but it's probably say 50 to 60% sort of thing. I don't think anyone's ever got to 100. But yeah, no, it's definitely something we can consider as doing a bit more drive through our communications and stuff like that.
I just wonder whether you're probably capable of doing a rough and dirty calculation on the back of an envelope as to whether there's a material benefit for the council. And if there is, maybe there's some benefit in looking to run some promotions to get that DD number up.
Yep.
But, you know, it's an operational matter. I'll let you.
And I think, you know, we're currently just redoing our website, you know, so there's potential there to kind of make that easier, you know, for people to go on
Sure.
direct debit and you know, so it's something that we can soon look at.
Okay, great. Colleagues, any questions for Teresa or for Brendan?
Just a couple of quick ones, if I may,
Sure.
Mr. Chairman. Yeah, clause 4.4. When you talk about overall debtors, is that referring to 4.3? Is it?
So overall debtors is, yeah, it's just debtors, so the list of things in 4.2, overall is the total. So that's not just 90 days, which is 4.3 is talking about, but 4.2 lists the various types of things that make up debtors.
Yeah, it's
So
just
it's total of all of those.
when you go up to 4.1, Brendan, you've got overall debtors there.
Oh, yeah.
Showing 2.6 million at the end of March. And
Yeah,
I just
which is
wondered.
a combination of rates. more
Yeah,
debtors,
yeah, so,
yeah.
so.
No, that's a clarification issue I should fix up.
Okay, thanks. And the other thing I was just, a question is, the debtors report, the very first table. What was the, mind you, it's probably resolved itself now, but I'm just interested why current debtors was in credit by 152,000. What was the story there?
So it's current debtors is always quite close to being in credit. So what that is predominantly around resource consents. So when people apply for a resource consent, they pay a deposit at the time they apply, which is about $1,300, I think, for a standard one off the top of my head. And so if there's a lot of applications coming in, and like there potentially has been, that actual current balance will actually offset the credits from those will offset it until such time we do the invoicing, which is the end of the resource consent process. So you're talking a month, potentially longer if there's further information required, or longer process as well. So if you notice in March, it was about $20,000. The reason why June has jumped up substantially to 254 is at the end of the year, audit gets us to clear those credit balances out and treat them as income in advance.
Oh, yeah.
But I don't do that during the year. Because it's just a balance sheet process. So I don't follow that.
That makes sense. Hey, look, well, thank you, for the tables that you've provided here. They certainly help to just clarify where the, where the debt lies, what activities in particular the debt lies. It's been very useful. So thank you for that.
Brendan, if you can just help me, my sense is that the aged debtor position is improving.
Yeah.
And in particular, that you and Teresa have done some really good work in moving quite a large sum from where payment arrangements were to be negotiated.
Yeah.
To a position where to a very large extent, you've actually got them on to payment arrangements.
Yes. Yeah. I would have to give most of the credit for that, so I can't take much of it because she does good work in that area.
So thank you, Teresa, for that effort. That's a big deal, getting people onto payment arrangements. So thank you for that. Does anyone else have any questions before I move? We receive this report. Okay, so I'll move that the report be received and seconded by Councillor Prendergast. Thanks, Brendan. Shall we, folks, take 5 to 10 minute stop and tea coffee break, and then we'll get into the public excluded section. Great, thanks, folks. welcome back, everyone. Turning now to item 43, which is a resolution to exclude the public for item PE3. You've got a report from Kaya on page 46. You may well be aware that the Ombudsman has recently issued a report covering guidance in relation to the conduct of meetings, and particularly focusing on public excluded sections of local authority meetings together with workshops. And I'm particularly grateful to Kaya for being really clear with us as to the particular reasons why, in this case, public should be excluded from the next section of the meeting, and that, to read from the report, is to protect the privacy of natural people. So thanks, Kaya, for being so specific. I think it's something that we need to do a lot more of across the sector. So the resolution is to exclude the public for the reasons given. I'll move that, seconded by Councillor Prendergast. Okay,